finally in the news, a retirement and a notable one. Julian Edelman, the BFF of Tom Brady during a great run in New England that lasted over a decade, and he's one of the great postseason performers at wide receiver. His career is over. His knee has been troublesome, and that's ultimately what takes him out of the mix. So the Patriots fail him waive him on a failed physical designation. Greg, I know this is a guy that was special to you as a Patriots fan.
I mean, right there, go-ahead touchdown in the greatest Super Bowl ever against the Seahawks, and that might not be one of the top 3 playoff moments in Julian Edelman's history. I think you think of Edelman at the end of his career when he was a little broken down, and he gets the Super Bowl MVP dragging that knee around, but I like to think of him as a returner, as the next version of Troy Brown early in his Patriots career when he did something Wes Welker never could, and that's make people miss, make plays on his own, and to me, he is the defining glue guy. I know we're going to talk about that, but for the Patriots in the 2010s, Troy Brown was the guy in the 2000s. Edelman was the guy in the 2010s.
That's what I would say. I think when you think about Edelman, and there's been a lot of hot air this week, people trying to reduce everything down to, is he a Hall of Famer or not? Who cares? Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But he was invaluable to the Patriots, and when I think about the all-time glue guys, that mean a lot, and we're going to have a good conversation on glue guys later. Edelman is near the top of the list for me, Mark.
Yeah, I think, Bill Belichick said it best, that he has not really been around a player who came as far in his career as Edelman did. The way he started, where he came from college, and what he evolved into. I kind of always loved Edelman, and the Patriots can be a little pesky and annoying, but I didn't feel that way about him. But I don't think we can have this chat without bringing in our friend and producer and lifelong Patriots fan, Ricky Hollywood.
Oh, no, yes. Erica's Twitter account, real rough times. You said lifelong, probably right around the time of their 3rd or 4th Super Bowls when she got in. But Erica,
fair.
Let's bring you in, Ricky. I understand you were always a huge Edelman fan. You were a big Danny Amendola fan. You like these certain types of Patriots wide receivers, it seems. Tell us how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't just jump in after the 1st or 2nd Super Bowl. Dan, thank you very much.
You're like 8
but
years
also,
old when they won a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, so I was before that. But also, I'm heartbroken. It is really the end of an era. And, he was not only just the guy that brought the team together, he was buying into Tom Brady's stuff. They would be posting, these hype videos that would get the fans involved. He would do his pop-up shops within the community. He was so involved within Boston. Like, when you think of Boston sports, Edelman comes to mind right away. And
it's got to hurt, Ricky, because he's never coming back. He's just never coming back. Just like that dynasty is never coming back. Let's talk about that.
No, it's not. As Gronk said, though, this week, he was cute. That was Gronk's word for Edelman. I think that's the key to his popularity.
All right, Erica, hang in there.
I don't know.
Just hang in there.
Erica.
It's going to be okay. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to get Erica to regroup here. Coming up next in the Around the NFL broadcast. Around the NFC North. Let's start with the Lions and Vikings. Hang in there, Ricky.
Free agency frenzy on NFL Network. Some breaking news.
Welcome to Jeopardy.
A wild Saturday night for probably everyone, I would say, in the NFL.
I'm pumped. Let's do this.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Dan Campbell is the guy, the next head coach of the Detroit Lions.
When you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
The Lions wanted Goff.
He's tough, he's durable, and most importantly, he's a winner.
The Vikings landed the best interior defensive lineman in free agency.
Patrick Peterson, 1 year, $10 million for the former Arizona Cardinal.
Bears are not getting Russell Wilson.
Andy Dalton now gets the chance to be a starter.
That's how we see Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback.
Aaron Jones is not going to be a free agent.
I'm just blessed to be able to come back and suit back up here.
Aaron Rodgers just announced he is going to be a guest host on Jeopardy.
Scott, did you come up with the correct response? Who wanted to kick that field goal? That is a great question. Should be correct, but unfortunately for this game today, that's incorrect.
Welcome back. All right, NFC North talk. Let's start with the Detroit Lions. And I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I think the Lions are having one of the smartest off seasons of any team in the league right now. And when you look at what they're doing right now, the Matthew Stafford trade was kind of brilliant. They're a team in a rebuild and a 33-year-old quarterback. You get him out of town and get 2 first-round picks back. Jared Goff as well, of course, and he's going to be a stopgap guy for them as they do this rebuild, and they can afford that. And Mark, like, every signing they've made this offseason is a 1-year deal, with the exception of Jamal Williams. Clearly a teardown, so just commit to it and then live for a brighter day down the line. I think they have a franchise vision as tough as this season's going to be.
I'm totally with you. I feel like as long as we've been doing our podcast, you could ask, what is the difference between the Detroit Lions and like a warm glass of milk on a quiet table? And the answer is nothing. But they finally, I think, realize, well, we've got to, we are the Detroit Lions. Let's be real about what the situation is. They sold high on Matthew Stafford. I think Brad Holmes, the new GM, is coming from that LA Rams, Les Snead world where you're going to be bold and daring. And they're kind of just saying, look we get it. We're going to need a couple years. But look they also sit in a position in the draft where it is possible that one of these quarterbacks could fall to them and change everything. So this is an intriguing time for the first time in eons for the Lions. Greg, do you agree?
Right. I mean, that all sounds nice until, Mark, you're assigned to watch the Lions with their number 1 receiver, Tyrell Williams, their number 2 receiver, Brashad Perriman, and it's like a steaming hot pile of milk. You're going to be missing Matthew Stafford. I'm with you on the number 7 overall. One of these quarterbacks is probably going to fall. Take them. Like, don't wait around. I think Justin Fields and Trey Lance both have the talent where they could have been a top 2 pick in a different draft. And so if it falls to the Lions, I think don't wait around. Let's take them right now.
Let's move on. And the Minnesota Vikings, interesting team here, boys, because, here's another theory I have. 2017, it's the Case Keenum season for the Vikings. They go 13-3, the Minneapolis Miracle, and they get to the NFC title game. They bring in Kirk Cousins on a big deal. And it made sense at the time because Cousins was going to be an elevated level of play at quarterback. That was the theory anyway. And then the rest of the team was so good that could put him over the top. Now I see the Cousins deal and the re-signing is kind of a curse on this franchise because the rest of the supporting cast is not that good. And Kirk Cousins, as good as he can be, is not great enough to cover up for those spots. So it's no longer a nice fit for me, and yet they're locked in together.
Well, their offense was great last year, for the most part. I'm with you on Cousins not being the guy that takes them over the top. But when you're talking about them not being that team around them, I think you're mostly talking about their defense. And they weren't a good defense, and they don't make sense when they're this bad a defense. It's a Mike Zimmer team, and that, to me, is where the questions. They bring in Peterson. I'm curious about Danielle Hunter's future. He's maybe one of the best players that's been rumored to be on the trade block. So he's someone I'm kind of keeping an eye on going into the draft that he could possibly get dealt.
Yeah, I mean, not having Hunter last year just completely imploded that defense, and they've got cap issues, and you're right. I mean, that was Zimmer's first losing season. They also were, 6-6 at one point, and then the floor caved in, and it had to do with that defense. The offense was not that bad. They were quite interesting offense, and I mean, maybe Cousins can get you there if the defense is dominant, but I just feel like this is a always sort of good but not great team. And so what do you want to be? I mean, are they kind of closer to rebuilding mode than competitor mode at this point? Well, I think it's a fair question.
I mean, yeah, that was my point, is that where they're at now compared to where they were after 2017, they're much closer to the middle. And you could say the same thing from an NFC standpoint. And then you look inside this division, they're clearly below the below the Packers. They're clearly above the Lions and likely the Bears. But is that good enough? They seem to be caught in some type of purgatory right now. And that's a tough space.
That's not good enough. I'll answer that question. It's not good enough.
No, it is not. We'll have, by the way, Stacey Dales, who we love, is going to join us to talk a little bit more on the NFC North, the two other teams we haven't hit on yet. So stay tuned for that. And coming up next on the Around the NFL broadcast, GM Power Rankings. Greg Rosenthal. He writes a column every year on it, and we're going to dish up next. I just said dish. Who says dish? Oh, there she is, Believe Land. Some call it home to the 2021 NFL Draft. You can watch all 7 rounds right here on NFL Network, starting Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you're new to us here on NFL Network, Around the NFL is also a podcast. How do you not know that by now if you're watching? Scan that QR code with your cell phone camera, and you can download our latest episode. Here's just part of a great conversation we had on the NFL GM Power Rankings this week. All right, let's get into it. It just went up on NFL.com. And Greg, I don't want to start us off on the wrong foot here, but the headline of this piece, and it's a really good one, and everybody should check it out. General Manager Power Rankings, NFL Draft Edition, Slammer. You know that I'm the Power Rankings guy, right?
This doesn't. I don't like this at all.
Maybe the IP here, the intellectual property, is property of the old Zeuser, the old new Blue Eyes. Or the new old Blue Eyes.
You're giving me some memories of the old Power Rankings guy. I did not suggest that. I would not have put Power Rankings. Last year it was like GM Rankings. This time I'm just looking at the draft only. I decided to do it only back to 2015. So that's on the editors. I'm not putting. I didn't do that.
I will be overturning some tables.
Of course, Greg is going to throw someone under the bus, but readers in general should know that we essentially never create our own headlines.
All right. Correct? Well, with that out of the way, Greg, I think things are moderately strained between us now over this, but since you did throw the editors under the bus, I will overturn some tables, even if it's virtually to right this wrong. But in terms of the article you wrote. Let's put the focus where it belongs. And I do like you changed it up this year. No, you're not involving trades when breaking down the merit of GMs. You're not including free agent signings. It's all on draft, and you went all the way down the list. And I get the feeling some GMs might be reading this piece, Greg, and are holding their breath right now. Tell us, who do you have right now as the best GM in football when it comes to drafting talent?
I went Chris Ballard first.
What's your favorite type of frog?
He has the advantage. He's only done 4 drafts. So it's like, I think the longer you draft, the more of a chance you have for some clunkers. And even he, had a year, his first year there, 2017, didn't hit a lot of home runs. But if you look at what he did when he first got there, Darius Leonard, of course, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith in that same draft, who's a really good starting tackle, Naheem Hines. That's one draft. And then you look at last year, he almost drafted the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Julian Blackmon, and a couple good offensive players in Pittman and Taylor. Right now, his hit rate is like really high. So I feel like the other GMs looking at this list, Belichick's like, just let him do it for 10 years and think how good it's going to be then. But right now, Ballard is flying high.
I think there's nothing you could say against Ballard at this stage. I think what he's done so far is beyond reproach, really. Was there someone that was close? The number 2 choice here, was it close, or was Ballard head and shoulders right now above the rest?
I gotta admit, it was kind of like they were all close. When you one thing I took away after doing this, and I went to Pro Football Reference, I looked at every draft pick. I had different methods, how many starters and Pro Bowls and different things. It's like the difference between the best GMs and the worst, when it comes to drafting over a long enough timeline, I don't think is like that huge. So especially the guys near the top of the list. Kevin Colbert with the Steelers is awesome. I mean, look at the receivers he's drafted in the last handful of years alone. Juju and Deontay Johnson and Claypool, and you add that to TJ Watt and Dupree. He was right there. The one guy that surprised me being higher than I expected was Jason Light. Maybe I shouldn't be because they just won a Super Bowl, but when you think of Brady and Gronk and the guys they added in free agency being so important, but he drafted so many good players in Tampa, and his draft last year with Winfield and Tristan Wirfs kind of putting them over the top. Like, he was ranked number 3. I think Jason Light, who's seen some low rankings on the GM rankings before, he's going to be pretty excited.
Yeah, Light, if it's not just recruiting Tom Brady. Like, he set the table there with a really solid roster. And, we've talked about it on our show that how many good defenses existed last year in the NFL? 2 or 3? Most of them feel like, pushovers for the most part. The Bucs defense was a total game-changing unit, and so Light deserves a lot of credit. Colbert, to me, he has been doing it for a really long time. And you talk about, Ballard having a shorter track record, but a successful one. The Steelers have been mighty for so long under him, and he has become the wide receiver drafting wizard. And I just think he's been an incredible asset to them, and as consistent as you could hope for from the GM position.
Is there somebody, Greg, and I look at this list, and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, where's Belichick? Where's Belichick? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 on this list. Bill Belichick was, first of all, as a Patriots guy, how hard was that?
And that's out of 23. 9 guys didn't even count because they're brand new and they've only done one draft.
Did that surprise you, or did that kind of did that make sense to you as you did the exercise as confirmation that he's really struggled in this category in recent years?
It didn't surprise me because, just being a fan, think of who are the good draft picks they've had. Joe Tooney, that was pretty good, but he's no longer on the team. That's not against him. Shaq Mason, and some other okay picks. I had to go back to Trey Flowers. I did my best pick, worst pick. I had to go back to 2015 and went Trey Flowers as the best pick. They had those years, they had, because of suspension, they lose a draft pick and then they trade out. They haven't had a first round pick 3 times, but their picks have been pretty bad. The second round defensive back picks, I just want to read them off. And all of these picks were guys almost exactly that everyone watching the draft was like, really? All right, here are some defensive backs just since 2015 they have taken in the second round. Jordan Richards, Cyrus Jones, Duke Dawson, Juwan Williams, and Kyle Duggar. I like Duggar, by the way. He was a rookie last year. But the other four, they gave him absolutely nothing. So if the Patriots' strategy is load up on second-round picks because they're cheap, they've swung and missed so many times.
And also, when you lose 14 first-round picks over a 20-year period for various cheating offenses, it's going to make your job harder. It's just there's no way around it.
That's a fair point. I mean, they've been picking their first-round pick has essentially been a second-round pick for so long that some of these GMs, where the team hasn't advanced as quickly as you'd like, are picking in the 10 to 15 slot.
You know what? Colbert got it done. He's picking late.
They've had a few whiffs too, though. But I like Belichick. I think it is just the pure drafting, because you want to talk about team building and leadership. Belichick is second to none. I struggled. My eyes almost blew up on a list where Belichick is 2 spots removed from Ryan Pace. I just struggle with the concept of it. But I see it's basically essentially on who they've drafted. And the Patriots, they've struggled in that area.
And
there's no question about it.
Next on the Around the NFL broadcast, we're headed back to the NFC North, but this time we're bringing some help. Stacey Dales joins us to talk Bears and Packers after this quick timeout. Stay right there. How was it?
Andy Dalton under center.
Dalton looking in the middle of the end zone. Touchdown! That's a perfect throw. Back-to-back touchdowns. Dalton back, throws it down the right side. On the run to the end zone! How about Andy Dalton?
Hey, let's not slow down.
Fade left side of the end zone. Gallup! He's got it! And Andy Dalton, sharper than concertina wire.
All right, welcome back, NFC North time, and we have a very special guest, a woman, she's in a Hall of Fame, an all-time basketball legend, and now just, one of the great reporters that NFL Network has, and she pulls off the jean jacket with ease. Stacey Dales, welcome back to the broadcast.
It's always an honor to be with you guys. I'm actually rocking the Canadian tuxedo. I have blue jeans on as well, so just to throw that out there.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Stacey. You are Canadian. But, I didn't know if, as a non-Canadian, if I could say the Canadian tuxedo thing. I didn't know if it was out.
It's fair. I've been asked this, actually, by other media personalities, and there's no shame in it. We rock the Canadian tuxedo. It's 2021. Give you a little... I got the black jeans, though. You can't go with blue on blue. You've got to go with the black jeans and the blue jean jacket. So
the whole outfit.
Interesting,
I like it.
yeah. When I think of that, I think Billy Ray Cyrus, 92, he always matched up perfectly, but he wasn't real deal Holyfield. He wasn't Canadian. We got to get back on track here. All right, let's talk, Stacey, NFC North. Why don't we start with the Chicago Bears, a team that you talk about a lot, and they're not easy to talk about right now, are they, Stacey? Because when you try to get excited about this particular organization right now, where do you go? Where do you think about their offseason so far?
Yeah, just ask Jim McMahon, right? Listen, Bears fans aren't happy. I mean, you guys know this team as well as I do. And when you think about Andy Dalton, the Chicago Bears, I think it's just really important to clarify for fans out there. The Bears believe this was their best choice in free agency. The whole Russell Wilson thing almost fell in their lap as far as the rumors goes. And they had to follow up, of course. I mean, who wouldn't? There was no way Seattle was going to get rid of him. But Andy Dalton was the guy on their list that they believe is a good decision maker. He can do some of the motion stuff they want to do at the line of scrimmage. He can execute the run game. But the reality, guys, is with the plausible departure of Anthony Miller, the wide receiver, and now Cordero Patterson's gone. I mean, he's an Atlanta Falcon. So Tariq Cohen's back. He's going to be healthy. But with 8 picks in this draft, I think you have to address the offense with the 20th pick starting overall if you're Ryan Pace, the GM and company.
I would ask you this, though. If you are Ryan Pace, you were willing to part with an enormous amount, a ton of picks to go get Russell Wilson. Is there any thought that maybe you go do that again to move up to maybe number 4 and get a quarterback who'd be on a rookie contract? I mean, if you were so aggressive to go get that guy, why not another guy that you start over at the most important position in sports?
I think it's a fair question. I think that the rumors are out there. I mean, there's every rumor under the sun is out there during this period of time in our football season, but I don't see it happening whatsoever. Simply because they've tried it before and it wasn't, proven successful. They did it with Trubisky back in 2017. They moved up to get him second overall, and it's just too risky in my opinion. So for me, you've got to go. You're either going to move down to secure some more picks in this draft if you're the Chicago Bears, or you sit there at 20 and you add to your offensive line, you add a skill position player, or maybe you go cornerback, given that Desmond Trufant has been added and he's, last couple seasons haven't been favorable for him, the veteran. So we'll see what the Bears do. I think they stick to the offense because, listen, guys, Matt Nagy's going to call the plays. He needs more playmakers. And if you're going to have a quarterback in Dalton that's successful, you've got to have skill players to give him the football.
Yeah, I've got a theory about the Bears, and we'll get to the Packers a little more relevant in a second. But I've got a theory. I came up with it last night. I haven't checked it with any sources or anything. Like, that's your job, Stacey. You're the reporter. So you maybe check this one out for me. I mean, Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, they have to be on their last year if they don't win, right? And they're running out of possible moves. The only thing to do is to make something crazy happen in the draft. There were some whispers about trading Khalil Mack maybe, or Akeem Hicks or something. Allen Robinson had some trade rumors. I don't know what it is, but I feel like they can't go into the draft and just, let's take a receiver at 20. Let's take an offensive lineman. Like, don't you think that they have to do something crazy that's maybe selling out the future of this franchise because they don't have any choice coming into this draft?
They can't afford to lose any more defensive players, okay? I mean, Kyle Fuller is a Denver Bronco now. And Greg, I love this because you're right. And Bears fans want this, and they have a reason to be ticked off, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this team has been to the playoffs 2 of the past 3 seasons, but 500 isn't good enough, and they know it. And I believe this is Ryan Pace's final year of his contract. If I'm thinking correctly and clearly here, I have a list in front of me of draftees potentially that we're going to see go off the board. And when you look at tackles, when you look at the receivers, when you look at the cornerbacks, this draft is rich in all of those categories. I agree, Greg. Do something big. Get a big-time wide receiver at 20. Get a future tackle to add to this offensive line because, you bring back a guy like Jermaine Ifedi, what does that tell you on a 1-year whatever deal, right? You need stability with your offensive line. You need some more receivers. Tariq Cohen's going to be back, though. Tariq Cohen is going to be back. I think he returns kicks, and I think he's back to form this coming season.
And Cohn's an exciting player, and they need excitement from your lips to God's ears, Stacy. The Packers, okay, not a very exciting offseason for them. Kind of a status quo offseason. They brought back Aaron Jones. You lost Corey Linsley along the line. That's an issue potentially in the middle there. But this feels like a team, especially where this division is, they could afford to have a somewhat quiet offseason. They still feel like they're head and shoulders here above the rest of the pack. Do you agree?
I do. I think that Brian Gutekunst, the GM, looks at his roster and he's like, we're pretty damn good, and I'm not going to make too many changes. I think Linsley's a huge loss. He graded out, you guys. Pro Football Focus had him as the best center in the National Football League. One of the reasons he was named an All-Pro for the first time in his career. But when you look at their roster, they like it. You could say, let's run it back, let's run the table, whatever you want. I mean, they believe that they've developed their receivers. Remember, Devin Funchess, he's back. He opted out last year, so he's going to be playing this year for the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
They re-signed Aaron Jones. They re-signed leader supreme Mercedes Lewis. So I think offensively they're in good shape. I look at their defense. They've got to improve their defensive front inside, and they've got to get a linebacker for the future. So, you can talk about cornerback all you want. They want more turnovers. They ranked 25th last season in terms of regular season turnovers, takeaways, whatever you want to call it. I think they've got to make their defense better to make the jump to the Super Bowl.
Do you think that there's a chance? I mean, Devonte Adams, his contract's up after this season.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to push to extend him sooner than later, or is that going to be a drama that we deal with all season long?
Uh-oh.
They better.
It's on Mark's radar.
Are you kidding me? I want to cuss right now. Yes, Seth. I mean, they've got to bring back Devonte Adams. This guy is an absolute technician. Watching him practice, I mean, that's really the interesting thing. When you watch a guy like Devonte Adams practice, he's always mastering his craft. He's going to come back better than ever. Aaron Rodgers is the reigning MVP. I have no doubts in this Green Bay offense. I think they need to improve their offensive line. Devonte Adams is back. One of the best receivers in the game that we've seen. Aaron Rodgers just absolutely lauds this guy. Devonte Adams is going to be a Green Bay Packer for years to come. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't leave for jeopardy, I can't imagine him not being the Packers quarterback for the next 3-4 years to come. And Packers fans, you are spoiled every single season.
Yeah, get out of our mention saying that the Packers have a painful existence as fans. And if you thought Aaron Rodgers was mad last offseason, wait until Devin Funchess is his number one receiver in 2022. That can't happen. We can't let that happen, Stacy. You're the best, and you have the best background in the game as well because you got a good boy on the couch. I love that dog.
That's right.
Girl? I don't know.
That's my girl.
Thank you very much, Stacy.
Thanks,
have
guys.
a good one. Coming up next on the broadcast. Yes, we talked about the retirement of Julian Edelman, an all-time glue guy, capital G, capital G. Let's talk about some of our favorite glue guys in NFL history up next on the broadcast.
carries down the middle for Edelman. Edelman to the end zone.
He's your ultimate patriot, making a play when your offense needs it.
Patriot way means coming in every day, bringing your hard hat and your lunch pail and working hard, taking into coaching, working hard in the classroom and executing in practice.
Julian Edelman, ultimate glue guy. What is a glue guy? What's the definition? It's a little nebulous. Here it is. Glue guy. It's a noun. It's informal. Established veteran who fills essential role without being the best or most known player on the team. Makes consistent, positive contributions as a performer and communicator. That's key. Without calling attention to vital role within team structure. And yes, he is a coach's dream. So let's share some of our all-time favorite glue guys, boys. We'll start with you, Mark Sessler.
Well, I got to go Ernest Biner of the Cleveland Browns in the mid to late 80s. A coach's dream. Marty Schottenheimer basically said, he's like a son to me. And he was ultra competitive. He would challenge the rest of the team. He did it all as a running back. He was not seen as the biggest star in the NFL by any sense of the imagination. We know him because of the fumble. But he was so much more than that. And the way he recovered from that to win a Super Bowl with Washington and the way he's revered, that's a glue guy to me.
If he had glue on his hands in that game, could have made a difference maybe. No, that's a cheap shot. That's unfair. Greg, you're up.
I'm wondering, did they hand out the hard hats at the glue guy meeting, at the lunch pails? Dante Hightower's got one, by the way. Bill Belichick called him Mr. February. He has bigger playoff moments than Edelman. This sack of Matt Ryan, of course. You think of him as the best defensive player, and to me, what was the defining Patriots defense game in the Super Bowl against the Rams. And then the number one play of his career is the guy who stopped Marshawn Lynch, the down before Malcolm Butler. He's a glue guy because he steps up when it matters most.
That's fair, dog. That's a good call. Let me throw out Jason Witten. And you know why I'm throwing out Jason Witten here? Because it's been a lot of ragging on Jason Witten, the way his career ended and how he was a statue at the end of his run and he ended up with the Raiders. And I'm not talking about Jason Witten on the Raiders or what was happening in Monday Night Football in that booth with his hair. I don't know what that was. I'm talking about this Jason Witten. This dude. Remember this dude? This is like if you wanted to script out, what does a glue guy do? He runs down the field with his helmet off because he doesn't care about himself. He cares about the team. But in all seriousness, Witten was a great locker room guy, respected by all, and is trusted as you can get on the field for Tony Romo and a host of quarterbacks. He was a glue guy. Back to you, Mark.
I'll go Hines Ward. I mean, sometimes you've got a glue guy in your hands. If you're a fan of a team going against a glue guy and it annoys you nonstop. I mean, every time he'd make one of these thunderous third and long catches and get up with that little smile on his face, he drove me nuts. But I don't think those Steelers teams would have been anything close to what they were without him. He was a fighter. He was super tough. He was gritty. I think Hines Ward is a really special player to look back on in Steelers history. Glue all over him.
It's almost an insult to call him a glue guy. This guy's a Hall of Famer. Same thing with Witten. I'm going to throw out TJ Houshmandzadeh. That's a guy that would annoy other teams. I love those Bengals teams of the mid-aughts, and I'm telling you, if this whole team would have blown up and fallen apart if it wasn't for Houshmandzadeh. He kept Ocho Cinco and Chris Henry, and Carson Palmer had his issues. He kept them all in line. I don't know why we're showing them with the Raiders. Come on. But this guy, what an effort. And he made plays over the middle. He gave up his body, and he wanted to win more than anything. He was a huge factor in those Bengals teams that I loved.
I love when Greg gets mad at the B-roll. It happens once an episode. And I'll throw out one more. And I think about, there he is as a Seahawk, Greg. That's it. Now they're just trying to get you mad. They're egging you on. When I think about glue guy, it's like, who would know glue guys? But who invented the term glue guy? It might have been Baldy, Brian Baldy, our colleague here at NFL Network. So I reached out to Baldy on DM. I said, who to you is the ultimate glue guy? And his response in a DM, almost an instantaneous response, he was probably surfing with a bunch of 11 out of 10 models at the time. He wrote, for some reason, Dan, without thinking, Brett Kiesel popped into my head. I think mercenaries and 3-4 defense are natural glue guys. I won't overthink. I will just use my instinct on this. And you know what? I trust Baldy's instincts beyond anyone else. A former 7th round pick back in 2002, Kiesel was, and he made his way up the organizational depth chart and then became a stalwart on some great Pittsburgh defenses. Never the biggest star, never the biggest name, but DeBeard was a big deal for that team.
Dead on, yeah.
The beard makes you a glue guy. I love that choice. Aaron Smith was another one right next to him, big time glue guy.
Your beard, Greg. You have a wonderful gluish beard.
What a beard on Rosenthal. It matches the Kiesel beard. All right, good talk. You guys talk. You guys are glued to me. You keep me tethered.
Right back at you.
Coming up next, some weekend vibes, some final thoughts on the week that was. Stay right here. We are less than 2 weeks away from the city of Cleveland rocking out for the 2021 NFL Draft. The whole thing kicks off Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern when the Jags are put on the clock. Watch the entire draft right here on NFL Network. All right, it is weekend vibe time. Usually we go around the horn, but in this case, we want to remember our great friend, Chris Wessling, our hero, our colleague here on the podcast, who passed away, as hard as I believe, as we tape this, 10 weeks ago today. And this week, The Athletic, Zach Kiefer, a writer for The Athletic, wrote an amazing look back at Wes's life that we were all very proud to read and share with our audience. Here's a little conversation, or part of a conversation we had with Zach on the podcast this week.
You know, as you guys go through like stages of grief, like those are real, man. And that whole, like, it hit me like a ton of bricks when you talked about having to leave the podcast for a couple minutes. And Dan, you were like, you know, I'll think about him on Sunday nights when I want to text him. And it's like anyone who's ever lost someone, they've been through those moments. And I became invested in this story because, one, Wes was awesome. He was, I mean, the stories made me laugh. And then there were moments that almost I had to get emotional too. And I didn't know Wes very well. We might have said hi in passing, but I feel like I know him now. And it was through you guys, and it was through Erica, and an hour-long talks with Colleen, and the text message she would show me that Wes used to send her. I mean, like, there was going to be a party one night, and Colleen couldn't make it back in town, and Wes told her, no, we're going to hold off. We're not going to do it unless the whole group can be together. What a fun friend to have. And it came through to that. It came through to me, like, all of us want to have friends like this in our lives, and you guys had that guy. And it sounds like you guys really, really became really tight.
Mark, and we talked about this with Zach, it was the type of story that had to be handled with a soft touch and having that conversation with all of us. And then I just thought Zach Kiefer did an incredible job. And please check it out on The Athletic. He really nailed the essence of Wes, I thought.
He did. It's just, you see the response to that article, and I think it tells you how true to nature it was. And there's so many wonderful qualities that Wes had, and I could point to the fact that I think he's the best writer I've ever been friends with. But he was a better friend than all those other qualities. And, we're all missing him like in waves and waves throughout every day.
Yeah, I think about how COVID has taken away so many people's ability to celebrate and to mourn people that they've lost throughout the last year. And that's been true for us with Wes. And so it was nice to share that time with Zach. And it's nice to do the show with you guys. It's a distraction for us. Like we're three guys going through it right now, and that's what we're doing together.
Absolutely. And thank you, Zach Kiefer, for what you did. Please, everybody, read it. And Wes, wherever you are, we love you. I will have a Greyhound in your honor. That will be my weekend vibe. Thank you, everybody, for watching the broadcast, and check out the Around the NFL podcast all next week as we get closer to the draft. Have a great weekend, everybody.